Good morning, guys. Today I'm preparing to paint the Paint Your Style challenge that we had a couple weeks ago. I'm going to include the reference photo here, and today I'm going to show you how to paint just the sky portion of this photo. You can see it preserves the light and has a beautiful cloudy sky. So I'm going to get the paper all wet with a thin layer of water. You do not want any puddles on the piece on the paper, but you want it to be thoroughly wet all the way to the edges and the corners. Here I'm going to show you, you want that nice sheen of water on it, so it's fully wet, fully saturated, but you do not want puddles of water. And so I'm going to start with a lavender color, and I'm going to paint that background color of the sky. I like to do my sky in layers because I find that it prevents the colors from bleeding together. And so you see that lavender color there at the top and also through the clouded portion here. So I'm going to paint the lavender portion on here and doing just soft strokes. The paint, you want it to be a medium mixture, not too wet. You do not want it to be dripping, but you also don't want it to be too thick. Now I'm going to use my Naples red on here, and I'm going to use it to paint through those areas where it has the light there behind the clouds. And again, I'm doing this in layers. So I did the lavender and this yellow. I think it's Naples yellow red. On this portion, and I'm preventing it from, I'm doing it in separate areas so that it does not blend together and become one color. And then I'm going to let this dry. You want to use soft brush strokes throughout this whole portion. Here I'm also using this beautiful violet color. I kind of like that pinky purple that they have in the sky. So I'm painting that on both sides here of that main portion of the clouds at the top. This is all using wet on wet method, and it's going to help you create that soft clouded look, and you do not want any hard lines. If your paper at this point starts to dry, you want to be sure to go ahead and stop painting. Let the layer completely dry before you finish with your cloud. That will avoid any harsh lines or any blooms that you don't intend. So I'm going to continue to add. I like to use this bigger brush to add the violet color. It gives a wider cloud look to this area. I'm adding some more lavender in this area, and then I'm going back through with a clean wet brush, and I'm smoothing out all those clouded areas. So you want to pick your brush based on the side of the cloud that you see, size of the cloud. You want to use a thicker brush, like a broader round brush, to paint these broader sections of clouds, and you can use your more narrow brush to do that yellow portion or the lavender throughout the middle portion of clouds. And then I go back through with a clean, wet, damp brush. You don't want it to be dripping, or else it's going to create some water lines, and you can smooth in that beautiful color throughout your cloud. So here I'm painting the top portion of clouds again. You can see in the reference photo it kind of has that pinky purple at the bottom, and then it goes through has a darker area of sky at the top. And so when you're painting clouds, it's really important to look at your photo and to see what your clouds are doing. On the reference photo, you can kind of see the structure of the cloud, and then when you paint your cloud, you want to follow that structure. So where's the lighter portion of the cloud? Where's the darker portion of the cloud? And then match your paint application to match that shadow and the light and dark portions of your clouds in your reference photo. So here I'm adding some more darker clouds. This is an indigo that I'm using here with this violet color, and you see that I apply a thicker mixture of that indigo on the cloud, and then I go back with a damp brush and I smooth that in. I don't want it to have an abrupt stop to the cloud portion. I want it to be smooth into the sky. That's based on what you can see on the reference photo. And you can see here what I like to do is to get a clean damp brush as I rinse off my brush, and then I pull it out, and with my fingers I pull off the water so it's not dripping onto my paper, because if you have drips of water under your paper, it can create an interesting texture. But if you don't want that texture there, you want to avoid the drips, and you don't want that water to cause your color to spread all over the place. Here I'm using that violet color again to paint some of those smaller clouds. I'm using a smaller brush, and I'm adding this again on a wet and wet method. Both the darker portion of clouds at the top and this section, this is on the second layer. I let the first layer fully dry, and then I wet the whole paper again, and now I'm using is on a wet the wet paper, I am adding the paint again. This is the wet on wet method on the second layer. And you can see again, I'm using my hand to pull off those water droplets off the brush. So it's clean and wet, but it's not dripping and it's not gonna bleed all over the place. So this is one of my favorite methods to do for clouds, to create those really nice soft clouds. I'm going to continue to add some darker clouds here with this bigger brush. This creates a softer cloud look. When you have a smaller paintbrush, it's going to kind of create more that more vivid color, more vibrant color. But when I want a softer cloud, kind of a lighter cloud color, I'm going to use the bigger brush. And then again, I'm going to go back and with my clean brush, smooth that into the background, either smooth it, blend it into the violet color that's right next to it in the cloud, or blend it into the sky background. And so I really like how this is going. I did this way, 2 layers, because I wanted to preserve that yellow color that's in the background. If you do both the yellow and these darker violet and indigo colors, they're going to blend into each other. You're not going to be able to preserve it's going to be more difficult to preserve that light yellow color, but then also the white color around those clouds that you want to preserve to make this look just really dramatic like it is in the reference photo. So now we've finished up the cloud portion of this reference photo, and if you enjoyed this and you would like to watch the full tutorial, I will link it here on YouTube.